It is important that we remember the justice. There's a proposition that's out right now, and I'm going to end on this. Proposition 8. This is the biggest social justice issue to hit California in decades. There is an unprecedented amount of money that has come in from both sides, from all over the country, to have this battle here in California, because so much literally is at stake. Regardless of what you feel about male couples or female couples marrying, I want to encourage you to vote no on Proposition 8, because it is an unjust law. Let me make it perfectly clear. The issue is not up to Californians to decide whether or not same-sex couples should be able to marry. They can marry. And they can marry not just because of a recent Supreme Court decision. What the Supreme Court has said is that they had the right all along, that the right has been protected all along in the Constitution, and that the denial of marriage licenses to them has been unconstitutional. The precedent for this case is the interracial case. In 1948, the same thing, when marriage licenses would not be issued to people if they were not the same race. So now we haven't been issuing licenses to people if they were the same gender. And the courts have simply said that every single person has the freedom to choose the partner that they want to marry, that is the most basic, fundamental civil right that there is. And that's not a right that the government has given. That's a right of humanity. That's up there with those inalienable rights about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those people who say, well, we don't like what gay people do, we don't like their behavior, whatever. I'm not saying that gay people are creating crimes, but I am wanting to put this in perspective, which is to say that people's behavior that we do not like, people who have created even heinous crimes, who are incarcerated, even they still maintain the freedom to marry. A person on death row has the right to get married. Because it's not based upon behavior. It's a fundamental right. So here's what's happening now. Is that since the Supreme Court has said there's a constitutional protection that's equal to everyone, that gives them this right, Prop 8 comes around and says, well, then let's just change the Constitution. If the Constitution says that we have to treat everybody equally, well, let's just take that out. That's what it does. This is dangerous. In terms of justice, this is dangerous. To put civil liberties to the vote of the people, especially after it's already been determined to be unconstitutional. And for it to be a matter of a simple majority, just 51% of an electorate that doesn't know anything about the law, when to change the Constitution at the legislative level would be a supermajority. It would take 2/3 vote to change the Constitution, because changing the Constitution is that serious. Don't do it. We don't have the heart to change the Constitution. What's next? Just think about all the issues. What's next? Not educating children born in America because their parents are undocumented? What's next? All the Muslim stuff going on? We don't want Muslims running for office. We don't want Muslims, teaching our children. I'm not trying to be inflammatory. What I am saying is that you don't open up this can of worms. You do not set this kind of a precedent to carve out equality out of the Constitution so that only you and yours can be considered superior. And that's what it boils down to. They're like, yeah, you can have a relationship. Yeah, you can have this and that, as long as yours is not confused with mine and the fact that mine is better. That's the there goes the neighborhood. That's the old separate but equal. That's all of the stuff that we have already proved is not. So here's what happens with justice. It makes you stretch. Constitutions are not changed to take away rights. Constitutions are changed to expand rights. Justice means you got to grow. I want you to really catch this. Whether we're talking about as a nation, whether we're talking about in your own individual home, justice means you've got to get up off of it. Justice means you've got to create a space where the playing field is more level for everybody. Justice means that the old ways that were unfair and put certain people at advantage and other people at disadvantage has to shift. The hardest part is when you're in the advantaged group. That's the hardest part. When it means that you have to share some of your entitlement, share some of your privilege, share some of your access. But you know what? When you know there's only one of us here, it's your joy to do that. When you know there's only one of us here, you are so happy to use whatever it is that you have been given to empower other people. You are just so happy to be an ally. You're just so happy to be the one to make that difference. It's not a burden. It's not a sacrifice. It's an honor and a privilege to be amongst the ones. Because that's what it's going to take. It wasn't women who gave women the right to vote. Black people couldn't emancipate the slaves. People with disabilities didn't sign the American Disabilities Act. You get what I'm saying? It was people who were in positions of privilege who, in order to be just, decided that they could share a little bit of what they had to make this world a better and more equitable place for everyone. That's our charge today. That's our charge today. And I think we can do it. I think we can do it. Amen.